This is Motor Merc to Mission Control, initiating pre-flight check and requesting departure clearance.
J01, I'm sorry, sir, requesting movement. Black Golf Mike, actually, amend altitude, descend to maintain 11,000.
Cleared for takeoff.
Army 72010, descend to maintain 2,000, I got you.
Welcome to Motor Merc vs. Space Pod dual vlog in sunny Southern California. We're in Santa Clarita, just north of Los Angeles, heading up Bouquet Canyon Road. This is my first bike swap ever, believe it or not. I'm set here on Space Pod's beautiful modified Ninja 300 ZX3R. And I'm going to just do a little review of it as we go along, I guess. Presumably Space Pod's doing the same on my 650 up ahead.
It feels really good, man. It's so comfortable.
So anyway, first impressions, just sitting on the bike. I gotta say I'm quite impressed. Is that the right word? I'm surprised how big it feels. It doesn't feel like a small bike. I have a 250 at home, one of the older 2006 Ninja 250, and sitting on that thing, it feels like a toy. Like, it really feels like a toy. It's a good bike, but it really feels tiny. This bike, the 300, feels like a proper bike. And what surprises me about the stance, the seating position, is how aggressive it is, and I'm not sure if that has anything to do with modifications that Mr. Space Pod has done to it or not, but I feel like I'm pretty well leaned forward on it. It's got a relatively aggressive sport bike stance. It doesn't follow the other, like my 650 has a very upright, very standard seating position. The Ninja 300's got a much more, well, this one at least, has got a much more aggressive stance.
Don't kill me, thank you.
It's definitely improvement over the 250, at least all the, my year of 250.
I'm already feeling great on this bike, I love it.
Everything about this bike is an improvement over my 250. I haven't ridden one of the intermediate 250s, like the newer generation 250s, but compared to, how many more gears do I have? There we go. Compared to my 250, this bike is a vast improvement. Everything feels sharp, it feels polished. The suspension's a little softer than on my 650, but the controls are just a lot sharper. My bike feels floppy, and I'm sure a little bit of that has to do with age, but the throttle response on this bike is crisp, the brakes are sharp, everything just feels quite responsive, and again, keep in mind this is my first bike swap, so I haven't ridden a whole lot of other bikes, but compared to the 250, this is a vastly superior bike. Compared to the 650, I'd say it's actually, again, in my limited experience, fairly comparable. It's just the seating position's a little bit aggressive for me. I'm not used to being leaned over this far. And I'll chime back in again on this later in the trip, but so far I'm okay with it. It's not terribly uncomfortable to be leaned over like this, but then again, a lot of my rides are like an hour and a half, 2-hour rides back and forth from LA to Orange County, so we'll have to see. Oh, it feels really good though. Actually, I think I like these controls better than on the 650. And this quick shifter is like magic. It's like butter. It's crazy. It's a really weird feeling actually to shift without using the without having to let off the throttle or use the clutch. It feels really good though. It's so smooth. Actually, what I'd compare it to is you know how you can upshift without using the clutch? You just have to come off throttle a little bit and then you can just make your shift on a standard motorcycle, like a stock motorcycle. You can do a clutchless shift, but it's kind of clunky. That's how I'm going to make a comparison to a car technology here. The old semi-automatic, the old Manumatic BMWs, the M3s, they had that kind of feeling, but the newer ones, the dual clutch transmissions are so smooth. Like when you sit in one of the new M3s and you do the paddle shifting, it's so smooth you barely even feel a shift between the gears. And that's exactly what it feels like shifting with this quick shifter. It's seamless. I like it a lot. I've got to admit that I was a little bit skeptical of the merits of the 300. I didn't buy into the hype on hearsay alone, but having ridden it now, I am very impressed. It feels like quite a capable little bike.
I was ready for that truck to not know I was there, and I think I was right.
Got to commit to that, buddy. I wish we had a little opportunity to do some slightly more aggressive riding than this. Getting stuck behind pickup trucks and sedans isn't fun on any kind of bike.
I'm going at a pretty slow pace here.
Oh, that's beautiful. Just the sound. This is a really good exhaust. SpacePod has the Yoshimura on this. I'm not exactly sure which model of Yoshimura is on it, but it's a Yoshimura pipe. And I like the sound a lot. It gives the 300 a very...
That was nice.
Gives the 300 a real rich tone. It sounds good.
It's so torquey, I don't even need to change gears. It almost feels like a torquier version of my bike, but like with the stock handlebars. Now, I do already like it better than the FZ6R that I rode. Feeling seems to be pretty good. Now, this bike with clip-ons would be pretty sexy.
One thing I'm not too impressed with on the 300 is the juice. It feels not, and this is just my opinion, not having ridden the 250 in a little while, but it doesn't feel that gutsy. You know, when I ring it out, I don't feel like a super huge... Like, I guess I wouldn't be comfortable riding this bike on the freeway.
This bike, man, this is a great touring bike.
So I guess if I were to say I had real complaints with this bike, the first one that comes to mind, the first most noticeable one, is the suspension. I like a softer suspension because I do a lot of commuting, but I think the balance on the damping, the spring damper, spring shock balance it could be better. I get a little bit of a bounce out of the suspension. When I go over a bump in the road, I get kind of like a whoop kind of a feel, as opposed to like a soft, kind of a pillowy absorption out of the shocks. So that is a little bit unsettling at certain points, and may just take some getting used to. The other thing is I'm not too impressed with the power. It has power. I guess I would be more comfortable with this bike on the freeway than I would with a 250, but I mean, I guess considering it's a 300, it's good. It's just I would much prefer my 650. I feel more comfortable with enough juice to get me out of there's just certain situations on the highway, you know, where you need throttle to get you out of them, and I wouldn't feel confident that this bike would deliver in those situations. Feels good though, it's fun. It hits me in the feels. No, it puts a smile on my face, I like it. Part of that's probably the fact I haven't gone riding just to ride in, oh god, I don't even know, over a year. But part of it is that this bike just has something about it, the combination of size and stance give it a fun, loving kind of feel. Strangely enough, SpacePod keeps his mirrors at an angle that is just right for me, even though we are considerably different heights.
Good right now. And Motormerc on the ZX3R. Look at all that inseam. I'm so jelly. He's got feet down with like a SpacePod sized leg to spare.
Yeah, I definitely, having ridden the bike for a few minutes now, I'm already starting to feel the stance. It could be that the handlebars are at just a weird angle for me. It's not just the fact that I'm leaned over forward, it's kind of the angle that the handlebars are they're angled outward a little bit, so my wrist is it sits like this, and it's tiring out my hand. It kind of hurts, there's pressure on it in a weird way. So I wonder if you can kind of like pull them in a little bit so that it gives you more of an angled grip, because my hands are starting to hurt a little bit here, but my back is not bothering me at all. Oh, the brakes on this thing are pretty darn good, actually. It can surprise you. A very light touch ends up applying a lot of pressure.
Okay, I'm gonna let him go ahead of me.
Let's get a little closer look here at the space pod on the Motormerc Mobile. Oh, he wants me to go ahead.
Yay! Okay, this is Motormerc on the ZX3R 2013.
We're past the part of the road where I know my way around, so it's going to be a little tougher for me to be confident in my maneuvers.
He might lose me, I don't know. I just don't want to push too hard yet.
Fun times.
He took those turns like nobody's biz. What do you guys think? Does he like it? What do you wager? I think he does like it. I'm betting.
So I've pretty much run out of stuff to say about this bike at this point. I like it a lot. I give it an emphatic thumbs up. I think we'll have a chat now.
What do you think so far?
I like it a lot. I'm impressed.
Yeah?
I think for this size bike, a bike in this displacement range,
Right.
I've never ridden anything that's this competent. If I had any complaints, I'd say the suspension doesn't feel that balanced to me. I think there's a little bit of like maybe a spring shock imbalance, because when I go over bumps, I get a little bit of kind of like a boing, boing kind of a feeling.
Right.
And of course the power isn't there, but
Right,
I mean,
right.
you can't really expect it. And compared to the old 250, because I've got an older 250, and compared to that, it's night and day. This bike
Night
is
and day, huh?
vastly superior.
Yeah, I agree.
Stopped for a little roadside chat. Gonna continue on now. One thing I'm actually liking a lot about this bike, I'm liking more and more the more I ride it, the more I shift it, I should say, is how smooth the shifting is. I don't get a lot of jerkiness out of it. It's very smooth. It's quite pleasant. It's comfortable compared to my bike. And I don't know, I'm real bad at chain adjustments. I don't really know how to do it quite right, so I'm not sure if it has to do with the chain being out of whack, but when I shift on my bike, I get a lot of kind of jerkiness out of it. And it's been like that with all of my bikes to a certain extent. But this bike is just so smooth when you let on and off of the clutch. It glides in and out of, in and out of contact.
I'm like embarrassingly slow here because the sun's kind of in my eyes, and I just don't like this road. It's so dirty, and
There we go, a little bit of sand and gravel for you. Make sure you're awake. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Beautiful power lines, chain link fence. Nothing like a little industry to remind you who's really the boss of nature. I'm being facetious, of course. neither of us is really much of a knee dragger. We kind of, we old boys prefer to take it easy. I'd like to dedicate this beautiful view to Sunburst GL. I keep coming back to how smooth the controls are. I'm really impressed. And SpacePod has custom aftermarket levers on here, and I'm very pleased to see that he likes his levers set up the same way I do. My bike has adjustable levers too, and we both like to have our levers adjusted in kind of close to the handlebar. So that's always nice. I don't understand why dealerships always prefer to set bikes up with the handlebars, or not the handlebars, but the levers adjusted so far away from the grip, because it just makes them hard to reach, especially when you're clutching and stuff in stop-and-go traffic. Your fingers are always stretched out like this trying to reach the lever. It's not comfortable for anyone. I've got huge hands. I'm 6'4". These are big mitts, man. Still a pain in the butt to reach for those levers, so I like to have them adjusted a little bit closer. SpacePod likes it too, so hey! That's great. So I don't know how much of the comfort and control is due to these adjustable levers and how much is just inherent in the bike and good parts, but it feels really nice, so nice. Compared to my 250, those controls are they feel sloppy and loose. Like when you squeeze them, like nothing happens right away until you squeeze them enough, then they start applying pressure to the clutch or the brakes or what have you, and the levers themselves just feel floppy too. Like they don't feel like they're mounted very solidly. Just, you know, it just doesn't feel that good. It doesn't feel like good fit and finish. But this bike, just everything comes together so nicely. It's just, I guess I won't say it's a masterpiece, but it's definitely an excellent piece.